What's up guys, welcome to Seafood Kitchen Barbecue. This week we're going to take a look at some homemade beef jerky. We're going to do it on the Dehydrator. Gives us a quality, consistent result every time. I know I'm tired of paying those sky-high prices for some subpar meat, so let's get into it. Alright, walking around Costco we saw this eye round. Comes out at 5.89 pounds. So let's get this out of the packaging and see how much the meat actually weighs without all that packaging on it. And pull out the kitchen scale in a nice clean bowl, and we'll zero that out. So we'll get our 2 roasts into this bowl and see how much meat we got for what they charged us. Looks like 5 pounds, 13 ounces. We'll throw that into the calculator, convert ounces over. Looks like we got 5.81 pounds. So just a little shy there, nothing to worry about. So we're gonna take off this fat cap. When you're doing beef jerky, you're dehydrating it, pulling that moisture out of it and preserving that meat essentially. So when you're making beef jerky, you don't actually get the meat to a high enough temperature to render that fat out, which is about 155 degrees. What we're gonna do is trim off as much of this as we can. We're gonna take off any little bits hanging on the outside of the meat, take off that entire fat cap. There's gonna be some connective tissue deep inside this muscle, and we'll deal with that as we get into cutting this into our jerky pieces. We wanna make sure this meat's as lean as we can possibly get it. That's why eye round's a really good cut of meat. I also like to use London Broil when I'm making this at home. So we're gonna cut this roast right down the middle, give us some more manageable pieces here. Now my recommendation is to get the sharpest knife in your kitchen and practice your knife skills. You can ask your local butcher to cut your roast jerky style for you. A lot of them will do it, but you're not gonna get the results you want. This is a great time to practice working with your knife and making those really precise cuts. What we're looking for is about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 inch per slice. So after you've got those all trimmed up, you're gonna wanna come back to your discard pile and take a look at the pieces you were gonna throw out. You'd be really surprised at your expectations going into cutting for jerky and coming out of cutting for jerky. So always look at that discard pile. There's always gonna be some pieces you can salvage and trim that you think will make a good piece for you. Let's measure this up and see how much this one roast got us. Put down some foil over that raw meat, pull out the kitchen scale again, and I've got this measuring cup here lined with a plastic bag. This is how we're going to be portioning out our jerky for our different marinades today. I've got about 2 pounds, 3 ounces here. That's pretty good. This is the second roast I trimmed up. Let's see how much. I only got 1.6 pounds out of that. So I'm going to bring over this other bag and we're going to make these bags as even as possible. So we have a good distribution. We're going to get half and half into each marinade. All right, this is our jerky making spread. Key ingredient, we're gonna start with a old timer recipe. This is gonna be a 1/2 cup of light soy sauce, 1/2 cup of Worcestershire sauce. Now you're gonna have to pull that little spout off the top because it is just gonna take way too long otherwise. Next, I'm gonna come in with a tablespoon of garlic powder, a tablespoon of coarse ground black pepper, and a tablespoon of onion powder. Now this is my base marinade. This is my go-to for just regular beef jerky. I think I want to do something sweet here, so I'm going to bring in some honey. Do about a tablespoon of that. Get that mixed in real well. Get that a little taste. Oh yeah. So let's get this into our marinade bag. We've got some debris left in the bottom of this measuring cup. We're just gonna drop some water in it and throw that into the marinade. Make sure we get all those spices down in there. Now that that's all in there, we're gonna make sure we press all of the air out and get a really good coverage on the meat. I'm gonna call this the old timer. It's my basic recipe. Now I wrote 1.2 pounds on the bag here, but it's actually 1 pound 12 ounces of meat. That was exactly half of what we had. Let's get started on our spicier jerky. I'm gonna start with the same base. We're gonna do a 1/2 cup of light soy sauce, about a 1/4 cup of Worcestershire sauce, and I've got this chili garlic sauce made by the Sriracha people. Absolutely love this in jerky. I'm gonna come in with a 1/2 cup of that and about 1/4 cup, maybe less, of this Sinaloa Habanero salsa. It's the hottest one they had. It's got some fresh habaneros in there. It's gonna be pretty spicy, but I haven't tried it yet. So let's just sample this before I go overboard. Holy crap, that is hot. It's good. Let's go for it. I'm gonna put just a couple of teaspoons in here. Follow that up with a tablespoon of garlic powder, tablespoon of coarse ground black pepper, and a tablespoon of our onion powder. Now that chili sauce had some flakes in it, but I'm gonna add some red pepper flakes, just under a tablespoon. And give that a good mix. Give it a taste. Man, that's good. That tastes amazing. I think I'm gonna go for a little more of this hot sauce though. It was pretty spicy on its own, but once you get it in this marinade with these salty flavors, it could definitely use a little more heat. Probably another teaspoon there. Oh man, yep, that's it. Let's get this bag filled up. Now this is 1 pound, 13 ounces here. Get that in, just like before. We're gonna put a little water in, get all the air out. Mix that meat up real well. This is gonna be habanero garlic. I always like to do a sweet or mild jerky along with a spicy jerky. My wife and I like to go back and forth on the sweet and spicy. Give that a quick clean up and pull out this dehydrator. Now this Presto dehydrator, I got this on Amazon. It was about 30 bucks when I bought it originally. That was a few years ago now. As of right now, it's about 40 bucks on Amazon, and I'll put a link to that in the description. But let's get this thing set up. So we've had these marinating for about 4.5, 5 hours now. I like to go overnight, but for the sake of the video, I wanted to get these on here. Now we'll start with the old timer on the bottom. You can see how that marinade really soaked into the meat. We don't have a lot of pink showing, meaning that the marinade had some good coverage inside that plastic bag. All right, let's start to lay this out. We want to do a nice even single layer and no parts of the meat touching because they will cement together essentially. So I'm gonna do the bottom 2 racks with the old timer and the top 2 racks with our habanero garlic. Beautiful deep red color. You can see those chili flakes, the pepper. I think this is gonna come out great. Get those laid out in the same way. Nice single layer, nothing touching. This is also a chance where you can shape your meat. So if you had a cut that was a little irregular, you can stretch it and lay it out on that dehydrator because that's the shape it's gonna retain. This was about 3 days of making beef jerky for this much meat because each round takes between 3 and 5 hours. You can see here I'm just finishing the second batch. We'll go ahead and pull this off. We're gonna check for the flexibility. Now, the real trick for making great beef jerky at home is mason jars. You want to slightly overcook your jerky in the dehydrator. Now, the reason for this is it's going to come off hot and you're going to put that into a mason jar and seal it up tight. What this does is it takes the moisture that's evaporating off of that warm meat and it steams essentially inside this mason jar, and that slightly crispy bark when you pull it off softens and you retain a lot of that extra flavor without keeping the moisture content too high. But these are looking fantastic. Just run through here, check on them every half hour once you pull the first batch off, and if some aren't ready, just stack them up and leave them on there. All right, let's look at a couple of beef jerky brands I got while I was out. I got these at Target. This is brand number 1 here, real popular. You got 2.85 ounces of beef jerky. That's not a lot. Brand number 2 here, same 2.85 ounces. I bought the recognizable brand and the cheapest brand. Now you can see here the recognizable brand, that was $3.99 for 2.85 ounces. And the cheapest brand I could find was $3.69 for 2.85 ounces. I also picked up a pack of turkey bacon. We're gonna drop this in the marinade and see how that works out. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Now that all my regular jerky is made, I'm gonna go ahead and cut these slices in half and then just drop them in the remaining marinade. So it'll be the exact same proportions, just laid out with turkey bacon. We're gonna make sure we lay these in one at a time. We're gonna give the bag a shake as we go. The habanero garlic here was running a little low, so I just added some of the core ingredients back in, the core liquids. I'm gonna lay those in flat one at a time, shake that bag up, make sure everybody's got even coverage. I'm gonna press the air out just like we did before, roll these up and let them marinate for a couple hours in the fridge. All right, so we've had a couple batches here sitting in the mason jar. We're gonna start moving these over to a plastic bag and consolidating our finished jerky. I would recommend letting these sit in the mason jars for at least an hour to soften that bark. And we are making a mountain of jerky today. Let's get this turkey bacon out of the marinade. It's been there about 5.5 hours. Let's throw this on and see how it cooks. Now, I've never done this before. I didn't do any research on turkey bacon. The gal at the store noticed that I was buying jerky ingredients, and she was pretty upset that she could only ever find regular flavors of turkey jerky. So I thought I would make this spicy marinade with the turkey and see how it came out. Now, the marinade didn't stick very well, so you can see here I'm adding crushed red pepper flakes and some fresh cracked black pepper on top just to give that texture a boost. I may have overcooked these slightly. They were a little brittle after coming out of the jar. They didn't steam quite the same, but they were fairly lean cuts because turkey is a leaner meat, but they came out pretty well. All right, let's take a look at our comparisons. So I just zeroed out the scale with the same plastic bags I've got all this jerky in so we can see how much finished jerky we have. Crack this open. This is the old timer. Let's take a look at that. Exactly what you want. Very little fat. The fat gets kind of chewy and gristly. It's not nice to chew on, but these cuts are perfect. So we got 1.6 pounds finished old timer. That came out awesome. Now this is the habanero garlic. It has been so hard not to eat this. I mean, just look at these pieces. Great bark on them, nice and flexible, not a lot of connective tissue. Great mouthfeel. Now that was the first bite I had taken of this jerky. We got 1 pound, 2.3 ounces out of this. Not bad. Now let's take another look at our store-bought jerky here. We're gonna crack this open and see how much jerky we're actually getting minus the packaging. So I'm gonna zero this out. Okay, the package is 3.3 ounces and 3.2 ounces. Might be getting gypped on this popular brand here. Let's throw it in a bowl and see how much actual product is inside these bags. I'll pour this out here. It's got a nice tear to it. It's a little soft for my taste. The color's there. Pull that packet out of there. It's okay. I mean, it's store-bought beef jerky. It's a little chewy. I mean, it looks like it was kind of pressed on a machine. I don't know. I don't like the way these break apart. They have kind of a grainy taste, grainy feel to them. I'm definitely not a huge fan. Once you do homemade jerky, there's no going back. All right, let's look at brand number 2, see what we got here. Zero that back out. Get that all in there. Pull that packet out. Wow, we got 3 ounces on the dot, so we actually got more beef jerky than they were recommending, so this was a pretty good deal for the cheaper jerky. It's got this white film on the outside. It may just be fat that's crystallized over the outside, but it's just not nice to look at. It's got a decent break to it. It's a little drier, but it's still got that gelatin-like consistency. And you can see here, this piece was folded over. The connective tissue was not what I was looking for. This is kind of my main problem with store-bought beef jerky is the quality control. I don't know if this is how they want it to taste, but it's just not for me. Let's see how we did on this turkey jerky here. This is the old timer marinade. It's a little crispy. It came out not quite like I was expecting, but my wife loved it, so I guess that's what counts. This is the Habanero Garlic. That came out a little better, a little softer. Great taste to it though. I mean, yeah, I would definitely make this again. Maybe cut down the cooking time by a half hour or so. All right, let's take a look at the comparisons. Brand number 1 was $3.99 for 2.85 ounces, or $1.40 an ounce. That's a little high, but let's look at brand number 2. That was $3.69 for 2.85 ounces. We got a little more, but that comes out to $1.29 an ounce. Not a great deal. Let's see how much we spent to make it at home. Okay, the meat. It was $26.45 for 94.25 ounces. That's $4.49 a pound, or 28 cents an ounce for the raw meat, not including the ingredients. We had 34.9 ounces of finished jerky, so essentially our cost was 76 cents an ounce. Unbelievable compared to the store-bought stuff. It makes so much sense. But what if you don't have the ingredients? Well, let's go shopping. Now, I went on Instacart and I went and shopped my local grocery store. If you had absolutely nothing in your pantry, this is how much you're gonna spend. I spent much less than this, but 20 bucks if you had absolutely nothing in your pantry. Okay, let's look at the total cost. We spent $26.45 on the meat. We spent $20.52 on the ingredients if you had nothing in your pantry. We got 34.9 ounces of finished beef jerky. That's $1.35 an ounce. Still cheaper than the quote-unquote quality brand from your supermarket. I absolutely love making jerky at home. You might ask yourself, well, I don't have a dehydrator. If I haven't convinced you yet at this point in the video, you can go ahead and keep watching something else. Now just look at this homemade jerky. This habanero garlic is gorgeous. That deep red color, those chili flakes sitting on the surface, that cracked black pepper, and this stuff's got a kick to it from that habanero hot sauce we used. It's got a great texture to it. The old timer came out just as good. It's got that nice glaze on the outside from the honey we had in the marinade, the black pepper in there. This was unbelievable. All right, guys, that's how we do beef jerky around here. You'll find both recipes we made today in the description below. Let me know in the comments if you guys switch anything up or you have something you like to try. We'll see you guys next week on Seafood Kitchen Barbecue.